my comrades and friends, my brothers and sisters, in an election year like this, solidarity between Kenyans inside and outside the country is critical. Something like that. I read this statement deliberately. Mandela wrote it in Nairobi. He emailed it. I'll put it on my discussion group, and I know that people are going to access around the world, so that it's not me explaining to people. Because I knew one of the questions was, what is happening in Mandela? If Mandela speaks for himself, it's much more powerful. So there are little things we can do today in this networked world. Email, SMS, phone calls, Skype. Those are powerful political tools. Even this thing which people call the blog, it started off as a diary on the internet, where you could talk about your cat or your dog, or how you're recovering from the time your girlfriend dumped you. But we know that the same blog can be used to communicate powerful political messages. A camera can be a witness to a crime. A microphone can document the last words of somebody who has been tortured by the police. An email can save somebody's life. And to be able to see how these skills that we take for granted, you know, if you have a camcorder, you just wait for the summer, for the nyama chomas, and for the wedding. But Kenyans, people in Kenya, and that's why I wanted to show you the video from those young people in Nairobi, people are using very basic tools to create very powerful messages. And what I'm urging is that the struggle for democracy is not just a struggle to have X number of people elected into parliament. It's expanding the realm of rights that we sometimes take for granted when we live in societies like this. The right, freedom of association, freedom of expression, all those things. We know that in Kenya, like Ndugu said here, Ndugu used to like saying that in the early 90s, you needed a police side by denying people their civil liberties. For example now, you know, just that the Americans manufactured popular consent to win support for the Iraq war, our government is manufacturing consent so that people look the other way. When young people are being arrested, thrown into that area, you know, those of us who've been there, and those of us who know people who have spent 3-4 years in remand, know that under the smoke stream of fighting crime, leave alone even the political issues to do with Mungiki, just fighting crime. When you want to start fighting crime, what example do you show to the petty criminal when somebody who has been involved in Goldenberg is reappointed back into the cabinet? What message are you sending to somebody who left prison and said, I want to turn my back on crime? When you see former Secretary General of Kanu, who has been accused of rape or whatever, nothing happens to them. When you see ministers are being butchered by fellow ministers, and the same ministers who are implicated are walking around scot-free. The issue of impunity, whether it is unreleasing Goldenberg or Wuko Jem, Karaoke, you name the atrocities. How can you then preach to somebody, and this is not to condone any type of crime, what moral justification do you have when the criminals, the white-collar criminals, and sometimes the murderers, I mean, the Acumi report came out on October 21st, the year 2002. What action has been taken since that time? So, we still need to be vigilant. And I'm just saying that when I talk about we, I have been working in the civil society sector, and I can tell you that even those of us who are in the civil society, we are also complicit in what is going on. Many people, a few years ago, if something, the things that are happening today, there would be tons of lawyers in the courts. And I remember, for example, when Abu Ghraib happened, I called a friend of mine who worked with a certain human rights NGO, and I said, why don't you link what's happening in Iraq with the torture which is happening in Kenya? And this person said, sorry, no, I can't do it. I'm just submitting a proposal to the American government. So we have to keep each other accountable, not just talk about the people who are in government, but even the civil society organizations have abdicated their watchdog role. The other thing is happening. They're being killed by their brothers, they're being molested by their fathers, and all those kind of things are happening, and people think it's normal. So how can you live in a society which claims to be democratic, and where the lives of women and the dignity of women is held in has so little value? But more than that, a lot of people think that our big problems are issues to do with ukabila. And ethnicity, obviously, has been politicized, and we know how negatively it has been used and abused, even in these political campaigns. But unless we focus on the real tribes in the country, the rich and the poor, and the cleavages, which then they use, because you say you find these people, they don't have problems playing golf with each other. When they go to the golf course, does a Ochieng or Okello have problems partnering with the minor? They don't. But people who claim to be their constituents will kill each other because of the way their last names are spelled. So what I'm trying to raise here, because I'm hoping that natoa changamoto ili tukaanza kuzungumza mambo yote tunaweza kurudia. Sisi jukumu letu kama Wakenya ambao tunaishi jambo, tuna jukumu gani katika kuleta mabadiliko na mageuzi, kuleta demokrasia kama mapinduzi? Have we turned our back on our country because some people say, I have suffered enough, I've done this for 20 years, let some other people do it. How about if everybody said that? Who would do anything? And so, but even as we talk about Kenya, let's talk about Africa. How do we see ourselves as Africans who live in Kenya? What are our thoughts around the poverty, all the challenges that Africa has? Right now the G8 claims that they've put Africa on the agenda. But what agenda? And with whose consent? How many of us have been consulted, have given input into that G8 agenda? So, and then we have to look at ourselves as citizens of the world, especially you guys who live in the north. And we know that there's a south in the north, and there's a north in the south. Because we know that there are people in Nairobi whose lifestyles are much better than people who live right here in the city. And yet we also know, Katrina showed us, you can have people living in the United States in third world conditions. So what kind of solidarity, as Kenyans, what connections do we make with the Ugandans, with the Gambians, with the Somalis, with the Ethiopians, with the Chileans, with the Salvadorans? Do we have a sense of global citizenship, of international solidarity?
I'm a Kenyan. I've been living in this country for now it's about on and off, about 16 to 17 years. But right now I'm both in Kenya and here. In fact, I just came the other day. Onyango Oloo, who is here, it's an inspiration to see that people are interested in the issues that are pertaining in Kenya. My the main reason why I'm standing here is to urge us Kenyans and Africans to keep on doing this kind of thing. I would also like to urge Kenyans and encourage Kenyans right now at this time that the only thing that we need now at this moment to try and help us out of the situation we have is to get a new constitution. This constitution, the Bomas draft, this draft has got this majimboism, how people are going to control their own finances or economic plans in the provinces or whatever majimboism would mean in Kenya. This is what I'm urging Kenyans to try and fight for. Because the new constitution is going to give us dual citizenship, we are going to be able to vote abroad, we are going to be able to control our finances in the provinces, we are going to be able to do a lot of things that we've been talking about, regardless of whether you are in NAC Kenya or ODM or whoever you support. So I'm trying to urge Kenyans and encourage them to fight for justice, and the immediate justice that we are fighting for in Kenya is to have a new constitution, to reduce the powers of the president,